originally cut up these, I think they're about 3/4 square, 3/4 this way, 3/4 this way. They're about 13 inches long, and I got a few of them. I made 8 of them, and what I did was I ripped them on the table saw from here down, and then I flipped them over and I ripped it from here down. So I cut a little groove out of it, and that's what I'm going to set the glass in. So there you can see the little groove I cut out of it on all 4 of them. And this one I cut the glass and laid it in, and I'm trying caulk this time. It has a little flexibility in it, but it still holds really well. So I made this one right here with this blue gray streaky, actually it's white and gray streaky. Those are the other 2 parts for the other 2 sides. But I'm gluing up this one side and this one side first. And once they're dry, I'll put the sides on. The sides will go in like this, in there, like that. And hopefully it'll hold together. Now I also did these 2 to start with, and then I have these 2 for the other sides. And I'm matching them all. So I'm making 2 lamps at one time. I had these prepared, and I had these prepared for a long time. I just wanted to go through it. But I also have these little pieces that came out of there. And I thought maybe I could put this side piece in here like this and butt this piece up to it. Now that is going to depend on how it looks when you're looking at the light from the other side. I don't think it'll be a problem. I may do it, I may not. We'll see. So I added the 2 pieces that I glued up. No, I glued up this one yesterday. Flipped them on their sides and then put the side pieces in. And I'm doing it 1 panel at a time. And then I made this piece of cardboard here. It's the same distance between here and here, so it's square, because it's kind of hard to square it off. Now, like I said earlier, cutting this glass is tricky, and I'm doing it with this really nice, this is a nice cutter, but it's still hard to cut. And you can see this is a piece that I had to cut off. The smaller the piece, the harder it is. I don't have a diamond blade, so what I did was I had some screw ups, and you can see this is completely uneven. And I had to chip off pieces with this thing, and this needs some oil and cleaning up, which I will do. But I had to piece them together, and then I put the blue tape in the backing, and then I used some Starbond CA glue to adhere them together. And I think it's still wet. Looks wet to me. Yep, it's still wet. It is drying. But I'm gonna just leave that, let it set, and then take the backing off, and hopefully it will all hold together. There are certain things that I do to try to disguise boo-boos like that. Sometimes I'll use epoxy to fill in the mistakes. But this has got this really reflective surface. You can kind of sort of see it down here under the blue. Let me see, you can't really see it that way. There you go, you can see it now. It's like an iridescent that's built into the glass somehow, I don't know. But it's hard to cut these things, so doing my best with it. And now I got some boo-boos that I'm trying to fix. But out of all of the panels I did, this was the worst one. And I'll show you how I fix that later on. So I thought about using an accelerant to make this crazy glue or CA glue harden very fast, but a lot of times it leaves a white cast, and I don't want that because that would definitely look bad. But this may be on the inside, and this translucent stuff will be on the outside. So we'll see. It's just trial and error with these things. smaller square. Now I made these hoods. That one has to be shaven down on that one side, right on the right side, to match the other pieces. But this is a hood that will fit. This is the bottom, but it'll go on the top. And it also has these air vents on the side, so that's going to be a very nice feature. That'll be done. And the hood will sit on this, and you can see the angle that I incorporated in there. I don't know if you can see that right there. This angle here. It's all the way around. And the hood will come off of that. I made these forms, and I can just, if I can get this open, take this thing. This will be the hood. So you can see that's the hood. And it sits on top of this thing perfectly. And it's very secure. And you leave this so it's removable. So you can change out the bulb and things like that. But this is a perfect fit. If I can show you from the underside, yeah, it mirrors and it sits on those bevels. I don't know if that shows up well enough. What I will do is find some kind of flat. I've even made glass. Cut these for glass, but as you know, cutting glass isn't so easy. Not for me anyway. I'm sure there's a way around it, but not for me. But I will cut several of these pieces. Now these are all the same, and the angle is what's critical, so it matches this angle here all the way around the whole top hood. So let's look around for some material for this hood. I got all kinds of bits and pieces over here, but it's got to be thin and flat so it doesn't weigh too much. I've got some cool stuff here, but these are pretty much for birdhouses. That's a birdhouse front. Birdhouse front. And these are all just too thick. So I don't think they're going to work. And over here, that's too thick. Good wood, cedar, and they aren't big enough either. So I need like a sheet. Well, there's some pine, but that's kind of ugly. And here, what is this? This is cherry. I might be able to use that, but it's kind of warped. Here, look how warped it is. I know I'm only going to use parts, but I don't think any of it is flat enough to use. And here is a piece of ambrosia maple. That may work. That's relatively flat. Not really. Okay, so therein lies the challenge of using these pieces of wood. That piece of cherry is also similar to this one, and it's very warped and curved. And shy of putting it in a steamer and trying to flatten it, I don't know. Now I could use glass, like I said, albeit glass is difficult to cut. Some little pieces over there for things. I have some things up here too. Maybe these will work. These are pretty flat. Let's see. Don't know. This one may be not perfectly flat, but better than the others. But I don't know if I'll have enough. Even if I went like this and then like that, I don't think I'll have enough. And this one just isn't wide enough, so I don't think that's going to work. But what else I have in here, well, here's a piece of cedar, and that is flat. But that would only be like two sides. So maybe I could do two sides of the cedar and two sides using this ambrosia maple. This is kind of frail. Maybe, I don't know. One of those lamps is smaller than the other, so maybe I'll use that. I also have a bunch of veneers, but these are pretty big. This one was a book mashed piece that didn't really work. But it's possible to adhere some of these pieces, which are gorgeous, onto plexiglass, and then use plexiglass as a base. I may do that. I'm going to have to think about that. So I made these angles, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to glue veneer to them. I think I'll do some research, but I'll probably try contact cement. I think that will adhere to plexiglass as well as wood. I'll do some research and make sure, because if it won't adhere, that's not going to work. So I have this other hood, and I just put that down and trace the outside edges onto this one. Now this plexi's much thicker. And what I could do, if I thought that was even cooler, is just pour resin on this. That might be very cool too on both of them. That way it have some translucent quality. I know resin will stick to this plastic. So that might be a cool way to go too. I would clean the opposite side, which is pretty dirty, and just put tape around the outside and pour resin on it. Or cut this off, cut that off, cut this end off here on a chop saw, and then just tape around it and pour resin on that. And I'll still see these on the underside, these lines. So I could cut that. That might be a really cool idea. I think I might try that. So this end seemed to hold pretty well with the crazy glue, but this end did not. So I have to attach this. I'm going to use a different glue, but I had to scrape. Whoops, I had to scrape all of the, I don't know if you can see a residue. Yeah, I still got some more scraping to do. The blue tape and the residue of the CA glue. That has to be scraped off. And I'm going to use this Gorilla Glue next to try and attach that. I'll apply it with a toothpick and the tape will hold it on the other end. So I cut all these triangles and put them together like that. And then I'll probably do some glue in different areas to hold it together. And then maybe pour a resin down it with a thickening agent. So I took the template that I use, flipped it upside down, held it with this tape, and put each one of these, they go in this way. Like that. Like that. Like that. And then line them up and just tape them at the edges, like right in here. Try to line them up at the top. So I added caulk here, and I'll smooth this out so it doesn't go over the edges. I don't know, I'm trying this is new. soldered these edges to a 45 so the hood would sit on it. And then I secured these joints here a little bit better, here in all the joints. And then I secured it to the top of this lamp. So now this lamp isn't gonna wiggle, you know, it's not gonna wiggle this way. Where it was a little funky because I used caulk to adhere the glass to these, corner pieces. But now, check it out, this hood sits on there very securely. And I'll be doing things to fix this corner and this corner, but this is pretty stable. This isn't moving at all. What I do with that hood, that'll be next. But I also want to tell you I got this piece too. So I leveled out the bottom of this. I did it on a sander. I didn't film that. But this is just going to sit flat right on top, evenly positioned. It has the 45s on it. You can see the 45 right there, right like that. And the hood will sit. Here, I'll use this hood. I won't use this hood on this, but you can see just how nicely that sits. What I do with these hoods, that's my next challenge. So I am going to use, this is early American, and it's to just color in this light colored. This is cypress wood, very, very strong hardwood. It's not like Ipe, but or walnut, but it's pretty strong. Could I have used a different wood? Yeah, sure, I could use any kind of wood, but sometimes, you know, depending on what you're doing with the wood, it's just easier to use more malleable wood. Like, for example, cutting out those angles on the edge. Yeah, you can do that with a hardwood, but it's a little bit more difficult, and can catch and tear and cause all kinds of problems. So, and this is going to be on the underside. In other words, it'll be under there. So you really won't see this or this stained color and how it doesn't match the top part. Top part is, what was that? English chestnut, and it was a little bit darker. Not too much, though. I mean, there's the top, there's the bottom. Not too big of a diversity. And again, this will be on the underside, this color, so you probably won't see it. Gonna fill those holes a bit. And this one, scratch. Okay, so now I've got this, just this side. And once this dries, actually this was dry and this is where it will be attached, I can probably attach this. And I'm just going to attach it with glue. And I am going to use this glue right here, clear Gorilla Glue. And it's pretty strong. It's turning out to be a nice solution. Yeah, you got to wait. You know, if you're a little bit impatient, I guess I've learned patience. I used to use heavy-duty hot glue, but I found that they weren't it just isn't as good as stuff that dries for an extended period of time. So that's what I'm going to use. So I glued this on, and I'll let that set probably for 24 hours. This one is already set, so I'm going to put probably a darker stain on this. This is Bubinga. It's got some red in it, but I don't want to make this stick out. Plus you might see some of this framework underneath the hood, and I don't want to see that either. So you're probably going to see it anyway, but I'm going to go with a darker stain. I decided to use this English chestnut, and I am going to use a pretty small brush because I got to get into like little areas like there. So this is a little wobbly yet, but I think once I get the resin on it, it won't. And I also thought about putting milliput on these edges here, and then maybe up at the top like a crown, and then putting this little acorn on top. And if I shove Millie put in there, it should really strengthen this and it'll help stick. And then I'll give you something to take the hood on and off with. But I have a turquoise blue Millie put and I have black. And I think maybe black will go better with those two lamps. So I'd put black here and a black and maybe have it sort of look like it's dripping or something. It all depends how the resin turns out. I'm about to try that with, I'm thinking this one. I don't know, maybe this one. I don't know yet. So this is going to be the base for this little guy. He needs some work. And it will be pretty much flush with the edges. And once I sand it, and I have to plane it a little bit on these two sides because right now it's not quite flat. This one's flat. It's much bigger. This is cypress. That will go on that one. So once it gets milled, that will hang over the edges a bit, which is fine. It's bigger footprint, which is fine. And then I have to put the electric system in here. And I may raise it up because the way the lamp needs to sit, that wire needs to come out of the bottom and it will stick out and make the lamp wobbly. I'll show you that when I get to it. Before I create the bottoms, I'm going to put some feed and wax on all the wood of these two lamps. So they're, I'm going to have to do that later. I'll probably have to put some of this feed and wax on the base too, but I want to get part of this done. I'm excited to see how it'll look. I'm using this real stiff bristle brush to apply it because there's a lot of little tight areas that I got to get into. I could use a wiping cloth on this, but not for these little guys here, right up here. This really needs this brush. I don't want to get a lot of it on the glass, but you can see how it really nicely saturates the wood. Here's a better example. You can really see it there. Very nice. So there's a little flexibility in these, but not a lot. So that's nice. I can take the tape off and decide how I'm going to approach a top, if any, or pouring resin down the sides, but I have to thicken it first. And you can thicken resin with a silicone. I have some somewhere. appreciate you taking the time to watch this very long video, but very descriptive video. If you could subscribe, it really helps me a lot, and I'd be very grateful. Thank you very much. And I'll see you on the next one.